Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I've got a very special video for you today. For you see, usually my day entails of me walking through the vast metaphorical vaults of video games, film, TV and wrestling, and basically opening all the drawers and records, having a sift through for secrets or interesting tidbits and making lists for your entertainment. But today I was asked to basically answer one very difficult question. What are my favourite films, and say it with me kids, of all time? And you know what, it's a difficult question to answer, seeing as there are so bloody many of them and so many that I actually like. But thanks to enough stress that allowed me to grow hair and lose it all over again, I have endeavoured to answer that for you today. So join me, Jules Gill, for WhatCulture.com as we go through my greatest films of all time. Number 10, The Lion King. So the reason why I hold The Lion King in such high regard is pretty simple, actually, because it was one of the very first films that I was ever taken to the cinema to see. I might have been taken there as a wee babby, but this is the one that I remember, and I remember it being so potently awesome that it made even my ADHD ass sit down and shut up once that iconic musical note hit at the beginning of the film. My God, it was good. To say that the following film was mesmerising is to do it a huge disservice, as there is so much to love about this, from the liquid smooth animation, the hilarious characters, and of course the songs that are just so juicy, they're earworms that Timon and Pumbaa are salivating just thinking about them. Plus, Jeremy Irons as Scar might be one of the best villain casting choices ever made. There is not a piece of scenery that is left unchewed by the man, and the ham that he provides is the meat on the bones that I devour every time I watch this. I love this film from start to finish. Number 9, The Fifth Element. So The Fifth Element for me is my always film, in that I can't ever envisage ever being asked the question of, would you like to watch The Fifth Element, and me actually saying no. Whatever's going on, I will gladly put it down and watch this sci-fi odyssey. It's just utterly bonkers. I can't think of a more surreal piece of cinema that I've actually ever witnessed, and its freedom of expression and downright oddity makes this film so enjoyable to watch. This is a project that seems to have come from a mind that never said no to a challenge, fusing in bizarre camera shots, incredibly offbeat character moments, and comedy that strikes like lightning out of nowhere, leaving you utterly stunned. The fact that you can go from a world-ending entity that is making black goo drip from the top of Gary Oldman's head to Chris Tucker going Corbin Dallas in mere moments is enough to give you whiplash enough to break your neck. And yet, I absolutely love this frantic, chaotic energy that every scene is infused with. What this film is charm and confidence, endlessly quotable, and a visual candy rush that will forever hold the multi-pass to my heart forever. Number 8, The Running Man. So what happens when you mix Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Smash TV video game, a dystopian future, and a desperate fight for survival reminiscent of The Warriors? You get The Running Man, easily the best, worst action film that I've ever seen. One that is not afraid to tick all the schlocky boxes with pure confidence and charm that make you just fall in love with it. This is a film that has got so many Terry bad one-liners that you'll be quoting them for days after, and this pun machine gun style of writing also infuses the main narrative of a man trying to win a murder reality TV show for the promise of freedom with relentless energy. The action scenes are laughable, but in the best way possible, with Arnie taking on murderous opera singers, explosive-laden ice skaters, and of course, the one and only Jesse the Body Ventura as Captain Bloody Freedom. That workout scene that he does in the film is easily one of the most iconic things I've ever seen. It's utter insanity from start to finish, and by no means a perfect film, and yet, I absolutely love it. Number 7, The Shining. The Shining is such a potent horror film that it has been living rent-free in my own Overlook hotel of a brain for many, many years. I cannot get over how meticulous a film this is, and how I'm utterly torn between falling to my knees and kissing the feet of Stanley Kubrick for his work and actually loathing the man for what he put the actors and staff through while making this epic. Yet, as a piece of art, this film is easily one of the most haunting and disturbing experiences that I've ever sat through. This is a film that for me does horror right. It basically doesn't go on that whole ethos of jump scare, jump scare, jump scare all the time, and instead really enjoys the tension and setting up scenes that make those small jumps seem much grander as a result. This is atmosphere, this is tension, this is suspense that leads to permeating fear. Yes, sir. The sound design is meticulous, the camera work is honestly some of the best that I've ever seen in a horror film, and it's one of the rare examples where a child actor absolutely steals the show for the right reasons. If there are two words to sum up The Shining for me, it is haunting and persistent. Noish. Number 6, John Carpenter's The Thing. For me, John Carpenter's John Carpenter's The Film. Imagine if you just called it that. It's just The Film. For me, John Carpenter's The Thing is the film that pretty much has it all. It's got a brilliant central gimmick about isolated Arctic researchers getting assimilated by an unknown and terrifying alien. You've got the amazing audio soundscape by Ennio Morricone, and the tight directing chops of the one and only John Carpenter. This is a match made in heaven which details the plight of these unlucky souls descending into hell. The visual effects work on show here is phenomenal, with it proving above any shadow of a doubt that practical effects still have a very valid place in modern day cinema. In fact, thanks to the weird reboot/prequel of The Thing that we got to see how CGI things don't really hit the same impact as the practical effects versions do. It was very disappointing in that regard. The tactile grossness of the creature definitely hits hard, almost as hard as the beefy doses of paranoia that seep through this film's core. The fact that there are still arguments going on to this day about who was assimilated and when prove that this was just so well executed. This is an all-time banger, and probably, I'm going to say it's probably my favourite horror film ever made. Number 5, Night of the Living Dead. So George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead holds a very special place in my heart, seeing as it was one of the subject points of my dissertation that I did at uni when I was looking into the concepts of quasi-fear and how sound design could be translated into a mathematical formula to provide you with the perfect jump scare. It was a long essay, and I'm not sure if I made my points correctly, but still, I pored over this film time and time again, and you would think that by going over it so many times that I would have grown bored with the subject material, but no. It only furthered my love for this all-time stone-cold killer of a horror classic. I mean, sure, it's definitely showing its age in the gore department, and the acting can indeed be a bit stilted at times, but what this film is absolutely dripping with is atmosphere. There's a real sense of creeping dread that comes from its claustrophobic location and indeed its camera work, which sits so uncomfortably close to the subjects. The audio work, especially the mother being stabbed by her child in the basement, is nauseatingly off-kilter, and it stuns the ear with sounds so unnatural that it's actually quite nauseating. Plus, that ending, man, talk about a downer to see Ben killed off in such bleak fashion. This is an ending that has only become more and more loaded as time has gone on, and it is a chilling statement to leave the film on. Number 4, Akira. So in a weird way, Akira might be the film on this list that I enjoy the most but understand the least. And while normally this would be something that would make me distance myself from the project, not having a firm grasp on all of the central narrative structure, it's actually something that's pulled me in closer and closer over the years with its fleshy writhing tentacles. And now I appreciate this thing for what it is: terrifying and terrifyingly beautiful. The sheer amount of work that has been put into each and every frame of this film is worthy of praise, and while its 1 billion yen budget is absolutely mind-blowing, it's hard to argue that the smooth animation, brilliant designs and fantastic lighting wasn't money well spent. For example, consider the amount of action that is drawn from a 3/4 down perspective, which is universally agreed to be the hardest aspect to draw from. Then on top of this, add in the night scenes, again, which are chores to animate thanks to having to light the scene correctly and deal with tons of reflections. And finally, you have to consider the emotion and expression of the characters, which reflect even the smallest flicker of detail on their faces. And this was all done by the team because they could, rather than what would have made sense financially speaking. This isn't just a love letter to the animation genre, it is a bloody romance novel. Number 3, The Matrix. To say that I was blown away after watching The Matrix is kind of like saying that Everest is a bit of a big hill, quite the understatement. I left that experience in both wonder and confusion, and I remember bending the ear of anyone who would listen about the marvellous practical and CGI effects on show. Whereas most films have but one standout moment, this had 10, 20, 100. It only increases the more you watch. From fight scenes that are literal bullet ballets to nauseatingly tense editing that gives you whiplash, this is an adrenaline start from start to finish. You have iconic characters being created right in front of you, so many memorable moments, and just this delicious atmosphere and world building that will burrow so deep into your brain that not even a mind jack could reach it. I love this film. Number 2, City of God. Even after many, many years and repeated viewings of City of God, I am still blown away by the harrowing displays of callous violence and the disregard for human life that this film operates on. It's, quite frankly, shocking in some places, even to this day. In nearly every scene in this film, you'll be shown how desperation and greed override empathy and how violence and murder are the only things valued by the central cast. This isn't violence to be glorified as we might see in other action films. Instead, this film pushes brutal and unflinching moments to create experiences quite similar to a horror film. Your veil of safety is left in complete tatters as you genuinely can't predict who will be left alive by the end of things. The escalating drug and gang war, the pettiness of revenge, and the cyclical nature of violence are all exposed here for the world to see, and it is just enthralling to look at this. The tagline of this film is, "If you run from the beast, it will catch you, and if you stay, the beast will eat you," and that perfectly expresses what this film is about. It is just violence descending on itself, crushing itself into its own singularity of just awfulness. And yet, it's a beautiful film. It's so engaging. You can't help but look away like a car crash in slow motion. You know that this is just going to lead to negative things for all of our characters and that there's very, very few chances to escape. But it's shot in such a way that it makes it into this epic odyssey of sorts. I don't know how better to describe it. It's like a modern day Odyssey. And number 1, Amelie. Not a day goes by where I don't think about the film Amelie. It's just one of those films that has resonated with me in such fashion that I feel like it's influenced my life going forward. This isn't a story about superheroes saving the world or world-ending events as such, but about the micro rather than the macro, where just a few tweaks of the strings that connect local communities and you with your fellow man, if they're pulled in the right direction, how much you can better each other's lives. And that is such an important message. This is a film with love and passion sewn deep into its core, with fantastic performances, beautiful, almost idealized visuals, and the soundtrack so good, so purpose-fit, that it feels like it was genuinely embedded into the film reel itself. I watch this film to relax, to remind myself that while the bigger picture of life can sometimes be very, very overwhelming, if you don't stop and appreciate the minutiae of your day-to-day existence, then you might end up just missing out tons as a result. Empathy, curiosity, compassion, and a hefty dose of wonder make this film an utter delight from start to finish, and possibly are the reasons why this is my favourite film, and say it with me kids, of all time. And there we go, my friends. Those were my 10 greatest films of all time. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about my list down below. Please don't be too cruel. These are my personal opinions, and if you disagree with them or you have different opinions, that's completely fine. They are your opinions to hold. In fact, what I would encourage you to do is put your top 10 movies of all time down in the comments section below, and let's compare, see where we overlap, see where we disagree. I love the conversation, my friends. If you want to chat to me further about films and TV, wrestling, video games, anything else, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0. Or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, that's Dice with a C, where I do all of my streaming outside of work, and it would be great to see you over there, my friends. Before you go, I just want to say one thing. I hope you're treating yourself well, both mentally and physically. Be kind to yourself, treat yourself with love and respect, because you goddamn well deserve it, my friend. And do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? You're a massive ledge, now go out there and be the greatest you can be. Until then, I've been Jules. You've been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.